Halo 3 is sometimes argued to be the best game in the franchise, and while Halo 2 is personally my favorite, Halo 3 took what made Halo 2 great and infinitely expanded on it. But how does it hold up in late 2017, early 2018? Is this game still active? How is it on the Xbox One? But before we can answer these questions, we need to look back to when Halo 3 first came out. Let's turn the clock back 10 years. Before games had loot boxes and microtransactions that prioritized game experiences, before 343 Industries tried to revolutionize Halo, before 343 Industries was even created, before Bungie's contract with Microsoft expired, let's go back to the Bungie years of Halo. The year is 2005. Halo 2 has been out for a few months and is setting records as far as sales are concerned, and is killing it with its reviews. And it's paving a way for competitive gaming as an industry, but also in the living rooms of houses. The Xbox 360 is on its way, and while Microsoft could have come up with something gimmicky to bring a Halo to the Xbox 360 right away, Microsoft let Bungie breathe and take the time that they needed to give Halo 2 a true follow-up that it deserved. And man, was it worth it. Fast forward 2.5 years and Halo 3 is finally released and is one of the biggest video game releases of the decade, comparable to the level of excitement only set by its predecessor. Continuing where Halo 2's story left off, Halo 3 brings players back into the ongoing conflict between humans, the Covenant, and the Flood. But while Halo 1 and 2 take on a slower approach to storytelling, prior to the final chapters of those games, Halo 3 wastes no time in providing grand action within the final act of this series, as opposed to just throwing in a bunch of action at the end of the game. And this is a conflict that we had been following for 6 years. And having a game that is so action-packed really gives a sense of achievement to the fact that we have been following this series for 6 years at this point. While Halo 1 and 2 did an amicable job at taking players to new environments, levels, and worlds to experience, Halo 3 took it a step further, making it a point to constantly throw players to new environments they had never seen before, unless it was to make a careful callback to the previous titles, which is really craftily done. While this third entry focuses on providing an action-packed adventure with something unique happening around every corner, Bungie wasn't afraid to pull the Chief back for a minute and remind him that he left his companion Cortana behind at the end of Halo 2. While the total number of levels may be a bit less than that of Halo 2, the levels are expanded to give players more room to explore, while also generally making the levels much longer than its predecessor, allowing for the game to still reach the 10-hour-long mark. Still, 10 years later, I must reiterate how great the single-player experience in this game truly was, and still is. The enemies in the game are structured so carefully, especially with the Brutes being the new focal class after the Sangheili rebelled against the Covenant. It's a different playstyle when fighting the Brutes, and it adds something new to learn, rather than fighting the elites time after time again, like in the previous titles. Speaking of which, I was a little disappointed that the Arbiter really takes a backseat in this game, considering how important he was to the revolution that happened in Halo 2. But at least he wasn't just completely written off. He still had a moment of victory, and I can at least appreciate that much attention given to this character that was so carefully done in the previous game. As with every Halo game, the variation of difficulty actually adds a lot of replay value to this game. As you increase in a higher level of difficulty, it doesn't really come down to a matter of whether or not you are a good or bad player, but it really comes down to how you strategize against knowing that the enemies are stronger and that they're a little bit smarter in each higher difficulty. But it can be extremely rewarding when you get an achievement for completing the campaign on a higher difficulty. And that brings in co-op, which has always been a staple in the Halo franchise. Yes, 343 Industries couch co-op is a fundamental part to Halo games, thank you very much. And co-op is continued here too, adding online co-op for the first time for up to 4 players. It was a really nice addition that lets players take on harder challenges they may not have been willing to try on their own. And that was just the campaign. The multiplayer aspect of this game took it a step further than Halo 2 did by introducing a new competitive ranking system, which some people liked and some people hated, but also mixed the gameplay style between close-quarter arena maps and larger maps with vehicles, similar to the gameplay that Blood Gulch and Coagulation made in the older Halo games. But this time, Halo 3 added variety. This game had the most guns that any Halo game to date had. And sure, we may have lost the Spectre from Halo 2, but we gained the Prowler, a brute variant, a Chopper, which was so OP but so much fun in custom games, and drivable Wraiths, and a four-wheeler called a Mongoose, and a new UNSC flyable vehicle, which we had never had before. Having this sandbox of weapons and guns and a vast pool of maps not only allowed competitive multiplayer to thrive, but paved the way for a new creative side of the game that we'll refer to as social multiplayer. Sure, competitive multiplayer took things in a different direction that may have split some of the community that really liked Halo 2's competitive format, but Halo 3 still paved the way for a new generation of competitive players, and the competitive side of Halo 3 was really, really big. On top of that, there was a very dedicated community that was somehow developed from Halo 3 that wasn't really there before. And I think part of that was just because of the community's trust in Bungie, the developer of the game, who at this point hadn't really let their fans down. They had put their heart and soul into every Halo game, and the community saw that, and they were willing to make Halo their favorite game. And Bungie went all out in creating a platform that let a community such as the one we had back in 2007 through 2010 really flourish. They developed Forge Mode, which let fans make their own maps, and as time progressed, Bungie released maps that better fit for Forge Mode, that actually let people be creative with the way that the maps looked. They added custom games, which had always been a staple of Halo, but they made it bigger, adding games like Infection, which let the community make some really awesome game types to go with the maps that they made. They added Spartan customization, and sure, it was a more basic form of it, but it was something different. It let each player be unique in their own way. I always ran with my security helmet, which was one of the harder helmets to get because you had to get 1,000 gamer score in Halo 3 alone just to have the helmet, and it was something I was proud of, and I liked the weird bubble head thing that it looked like. I was down for it. There was always this huge mystery surrounding an extra helmet that no one could ever actually obtain called the Recon helmet, and there was this huge mystery surrounding how you could get it. And it turned out, for most of the time of Halo 3's life, you could only get it if Bungie recognized you for doing something cool, like getting posted on the Bungie favorites list, and they would give you the Recon helmet, or if you worked for Bungie, you could get the Recon helmet. But after Halo 3 ODST came out, Bungie actually made a path to get the Recon helmet, and people were hyped that that was even a possibility. Bungie opened up a new achievement system called Vidmaster achievements, which were some of the most challenging achievements I have ever tried to go for in a Halo game, and they weren't even worth any gamer score. But if you can complete all 7 Vidmaster achievements, Bungie would give you the Recon helmet in Halo 3, and I tried. Some of the achievements were a little bit easier, like completing a level in Halo 3 ODST on Legendary without shooting, and some of them were extremely hard, like completing the last level in Halo 3 on Legendary with the Iron Skull on, and completing it all in Ghosts, which means there wasn't just one good driver. All 4 players had to equally get in a Ghost and drive through the ending on Legendary difficulty, and it was a really hard challenge, but it was fun, and after 2.5 hours of trying and failing and trying again, we finally got that one achievement. I couldn't end up actually beating Vidmaster Endure, which was for Halo 3 ODST, where you had to survive to a really late level in Firefight on Heroic difficulty, but I got really close to the point where the last Brute Chieftain killed us all, and that was it. But even though I never got the Recon, going for the Recon and trying to get these really challenging achievements was just something that hadn't really been done before, and I really appreciate those memories of having to work together with other people or challenging myself individually to try to finally get this praised helmet throughout the community. And just to reiterate, Forge and custom games, that was like my main thing that I played in Halo 3, because the fans of Halo were so creative in making game types. I used to play a game type called Frogger, where you would ride in a vehicle and jump from platform to platform while a tank shot at you. It was just something that had never been done before in games, and there was just a huge variety of different types of mini games that were now available in Halo. So even if you didn't like the competitive side of Halo, there were hours and hours and hours to be spent in those games. I used to almost brag when you looked at my profile. It would show how many ranked and social and custom games I had, and I had a total of like 12 ranked games, like 50 social games, and like 1,350 custom games. So you could see where most of my time was spent, and I did not regret it at all. It was so much fun playing the different types of games that the community had made, and I really got into making my own custom games in Halo 3. And it was just so much fun to be able to make a map and then get a group of friends together and have a full lobby of 16 people playing on the map and game that I made. And it made me proud of the stuff that I made in that game. Nowadays, the classic Halo 3 is backwards compatible on the Xbox One, and there are more people on the game now than a few months ago, but it still sits in the mid to high hundreds range. Finding a game in matchmaking is going to be a little bit harder for sure than it used to be. You probably will have a much better bet finding a game in Lone Wolves or finding like a game in the social playlists. The Vidmaster challenges don't do anything towards getting helmets anymore, because after 343 took over, they got rid of that feature. And looking for friends to play custom games with is probably your best bet for having a good Halo 3 experience in 2017. Your alternative to playing Halo 3 would be to play it on the Master Chief Collection, and you're way more likely to find a decent sized lobby in the actual Master Chief Collection, because a lot of people still play that version of the game. Plus, the 60 frames per second in full HD actually looks really good on Halo 3. It was a real shame that 343 dropped the ball on the Master Chief Collection, because I feel like the Halo 3 community would have been a lot more alive had Halo 3 worked properly at launch. I remember going through the settings on the Halo 3 custom games to find that custom games just straight out did not work at all, and they didn't fix it for 6 months. By then, there was no one left playing Halo 3 dedicatedly in the same way. It's very much just casual players now, and the Master Chief Collection lacks any type of progression unlocks. If you're trying to unlock helmets and stuff, you get everything all right out of the get-go. But while multiplayer might not be as active as we would have liked to see for this game, I do have to say that the campaign standalone is one of the greatest campaign experiences I have ever had. And if you have some friends and you haven't played it yet, or you want to go back and play through it, it is definitely worth checking out. I definitely recommend picking up the Master Chief Collection, even though the game still has a lot of broken errors in the matchmaking system on the Master Chief Collection, but 343 Industries has actually officially announced that Microsoft has given them the green light to go ahead and hire a new developer to come back and fix the Master Chief Collection. It's been 3 years, it's ridiculous that it's taken this long, but because the Xbox One X is out, they're gonna rework the game to make it work a lot better. So go ahead and pick it up. It works well enough where you can play through the campaigns, and that's what really matters. Or you can go ahead and play on the backwards compatible Halo 3, and I think you're gonna get a really similar experience either way, except you might have an easier time finding a game in multiplayer if you're on the Master Chief Collection version instead. It's a real shame that game developers don't make games the way that Halo was once made. Today, Halo games are still being made, but by a company that lacks the vision that Bungie had when making the older Halo games. They lack the sense of community, the interaction from one player to another, the scope of the original games, and still has yet to make a Halo game that is even comparable to what Halo once was. Sure, Halo 4 had a good story, and Halo 5's multiplayer was fun at times, but simply put, 343 hasn't made a Halo game that captured what games like Halo 3 and Halo Reach and Halo 2 did. Bungie, on the other hand, now makes the Destiny games, but while the art style is beautiful and the enemy classes are still fun to fight, even Bungie has lost scope to what they originally set out to do in the gaming industry. Instead of making a game that combines and integrates a community into a campaign and multiplayer seamlessly, they created a game that focused on looting at its core. It lacks community interaction, creative input, and pushes a rather lackluster story while trying to slide microtransactions and DLC right into the players' faces. And it's just not a fun business practice. This isn't the same Bungie that we once knew and loved. This is a new Bungie that Activision signed on, and Activision's there just to make money. And believe it or not, Bungie has to do what their publisher tells them to when they're signed into contract. It's just a shame that even Bungie is a shell of what they used to be. I don't know if Halo will ever be able to regain its own identity again, but I don't think Bungie coming back would solve the issues that Halo has today, and I don't think 343 Industries moving forward would make Halo any better. If Halo 6 is a bust, then 343 really should get booted out of the Halo franchise because they have failed 3 games now, and that's an entire trilogy of Halo games that has just been not great. But while the future of Halo may be uncertain, we can still look back at the Halo games that were great. Halo 3 in 2017 gets an 8 out of 10. While the multiplayer may be a little bit hard to find games in, the custom games and Forge mode do function in both versions of the game, and the campaign is one of the best single player and co-op experiences you may ever have the chance to play. If you can find friends, set up your own custom game lobby and just play it. It is so much fun to just mess around in it, and I highly recommend this game, especially for the prices you can find this game at. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you check out the other videos on your screen. We've been doing a lot of these videos lately, and we'll see you next time with a brand new video.
It doesn't matter what you think, Bill.